Hello, today I'll be showing how to install the PDF converter for SharePoint. So before we start, let's show the server requirements, and fortunately they're very simple. Any operating system basically that can run some kind of SharePoint, including Windows Server 2003 up till the very latest version of Windows Server and all the 32-bit and 64-bit servers, they all work and they're all compatible. Basically, if it runs SharePoint, it runs the PDF converter for SharePoint. Any SharePoint version since 2007 is supported, so the free WSS3 or SharePoint Foundation 2010, as well as the professional enterprise level SharePoint servers. Any browser version basically works. There's no real additional requirements on memory or CPU or disk space. If it works with SharePoint, it will work with the PDF converter for SharePoint. Okay, so before we start with the installation, let's have a bit of an architectural overview. So this PDF converter for SharePoint really consists of two parts, and one part is the SharePoint front end of conversion screens, workflow activities, and those kind of facilities. And then there's a backend service which runs as a Windows service and it exposes a web service. Now this backend service can be installed on any system. Typically you would install it on a SharePoint app server, but it can be a completely new machine, even a virtual machine if you like. And the SharePoint front end talks to the backend conversion service using a standard HTTP based web service. Now you can install everything on one server. If you have like a small environment, you can run the SharePoint front end and the conversion server all on one machine. However, some of our customers deal with massive amounts of both front-end servers and concurrent conversions. So in that case, what you can do is you can have multiple servers that run the conversion service, and you use a load balancer in between, a standard HTTP load balancer. It could be a hardware one, or it could be the free NLBS that comes as part of Windows. And that allows almost linear scalability to be achieved when converting documents. So it scales from the very smallest one server environment to absolutely massive 50 server SharePoint farms without any problems. So before you start the installation of the PDF converter for SharePoint, what do you really need? Now, obviously, you need the installation set for the PDF converter for SharePoint, which you can download from the product page on the Muhimbi website. You also need some user accounts, which you probably already have, but you need one account that can install Windows services and deploy WSP files. This is most commonly just an administrator account or a developer account. And then you need an account that the conversion service will actually run under, and then the setup application will ask for this. And this account needs to be a local administrator, and depending on what kind of file formats you are going to convert, this account may also need read access in SharePoint. For example, info path conversions or HTML conversions need additional access in SharePoint. Then you also need the relevant Office 2007 or 2010 dependency installers, and this depends on which kind of file formats you're looking to convert. For example, if you're just going to convert info path documents, then there's no need to install Office and all applications that come with it on the conversion server. You just need to install InfoPath. However, if you're looking to install all modern kind of file types, then you may need to do an installation of Word and Excel and PowerPoint. And our software makes sure that any interaction with Office happens in a reliable and robust and scalable fashion. Then if you're doing a production deployment and you've purchased the software, you need a license key, which you would have received from us or on our website. And really, when you're going to do an installation, have a look at chapter 2 of the administration guide. It really shows a lot of details about how these kind of installations work, and provides more information than what I can show you in this video. Okay, so let's get going with the installation of the conversion service part first. So let's navigate to the Windows Service installer. And so this is something you would install if you have a multiple server environment. This you would install on an app server and not really on your front-end server. Although if you have a single server environment, it will all work fine on one machine. So let's run setup and click next. Select the pathway you would like to install it to, but just accept the default path here. And the installer doesn't really ask many questions. We try to keep it as simple as possible. The only thing you need to do is specify a username where the account or where the service actually will run under. So this takes a couple of seconds, and here we go. And you need to enter your domain name and your username, as well as passwords. And this account name, the PDF service account, we've just made up this name. It can really be anything. Okay, let's click next. We actually see that the install was interrupted, and there's a message in the background. And this is a message related to what's known as a loopback check. You only see this when you're doing info path or HTML conversions. If you don't know what this means, have a chat with your network administrator. They'll probably tell you. On development servers, always say yes. On production servers, you probably also want to say yes, but your network administrator or your server administrator probably wants to have a quick look at this URL. So let's say yes. And your system needs to be restarted afterwards, and then for this initial test setup, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so that takes care of the Windows Service installer. Now we also need to install the MS Office dependencies, because as part of this demonstration we're really going for support for every possible Office file format. Okay, let's enter our license key, and it's essential that you run with a proper licensed and activated Office version. Our software is not guaranteed to work well if you're running a trial or unactivated version, so this is very important. So let's say do a custom installation. You may want to change the file location, but what you definitely want to do is uninstall those kind of applications that you won't be using as part of conversion. So Access is not being used, OneNote is not being used, Outlook is not being used, SharePoint Workspace is not used, same for the Visio viewer. So we still have Excel, InfoPath and PowerPoint and Publisher and Word installed, and those are all being used properly. So let's install that. And installing Office is like watching paint dry, so we'll actually speed this up for a little bit. Okay, so that takes care of the Office installation. Now, there's a couple of things that we need to check. One is actually that your default printer is set to the XPS document writer. So we go to devices and printers. We have to check that the local printer is set to this XPS document writer. We don't actually use this as part of our product, but some Office applications can behave a bit weirdly if this isn't set to the right printer. So to keep things simple, just set it to this printer. And the other thing is that while logged in as the account the conversion service runs under, so the account that we specified on the installation screen, we need to launch one of the Office applications at least once. Just make sure that Office is properly activated and starts without errors. So in this demonstration we are already logged in as that account, but if you are running it under a different account than what you're using to install the software under, then log into the desktop using the service account and just start any of the Office applications at least once. So in this case we'll start Word 2010 and we check, see it starts without errors, it's all properly activated. We say what we want as a default here. Let's just say that we want OpenXML by default, it doesn't really matter. And then we can close Excel or Word and we're completely done. Okay, so up to the next step, which is to make sure that Office is properly service packed. So what you can do is just install the latest Office service packs, or you can let Windows take care of it. Depends a little bit on how Windows Update is configured. And what you want to do is in change settings, you want to specify give me recommended updates as well as give me updates for Microsoft products. In that case, it doesn't just do Windows Update, it also gives you updates for all the Office applications. And then you run Windows Update, and that will make sure that you get all the latest and greatest patches. It's not really required for our software, but it's just one of those things that you want to do. Okay, so the service is all now naturally nicely installed. So the next thing we need to do is install the SharePoint front-end WSP file, which is just like any other SharePoint application, just a single file that is deployed to one of your SharePoint servers and it's then automatically copied to all of your other SharePoint servers. So let's have a look at the SharePoint install, and what we need to do here is just click install command. And it doesn't do any magic, it just uses the standard SharePoint facilities to actually put a WSP file, the one that you can see here, in your SharePoint server and then deploys it. And you can modify this command script if you need to deploy this as part of a larger solution, or do whatever you like with it. So this takes a second. Okay, so now it has deployed, and because this is a single server test system, deployment to this one server goes nicely and quickly. If you have multiple servers in your farm, it may take a little bit longer. So what we do now is actually we go to the Central Administration, and you'll see in this demo we actually use SharePoint 2010, but it works equally well, the entire solution, on SharePoint 2007. So let's refresh the screen. And let's have a look at the farm solution screen, and there we can actually see the status of the deployment to see if it was successful and if it has deployed to all machines. And we see here the PDF converter, and it has been properly deployed, which is great. Okay, so let's go to our Central Administration configuration screen, which is fairly basic and simple, which is good, makes it easy to understand. And there's really only one major thing to configure, and that is the location of the conversion server. So as I briefly mentioned before, the conversion service runs as a Windows web service, and by default it listens when everything is installed on the same system on the standard local host. Now if everything runs on one machine, great, this is working fine and you don't need to change anything. However, if you run the conversion service on an app server, or you have multiple web front-end servers, then localhost is going to resolve to your web front-end server, which is incorrect because that's not where the conversion service runs. So in that case you need to replace localhost here with the name of the server that the conversion service has been installed on. And if you're running a load balancer with multiple conversion servers behind it, then you need to put the virtual host name of your load balancer here. And if you want to see if everything works and you can connect, then click the test button and you get an error message, or you get a success message like we got here. And you can also specify which file formats you wish to support for conversion. So if you only installed in conversion of InfoPath, then perhaps you should disable all the converters except for the info path one, so that way your users, they get a nice message if they are trying to convert a file format that you don't really want to support. And one really important step is actually to validate the settings for all these converters. And what our software does in the background, it looks at all the individual converters, checks if all the dependencies have been properly installed and everything is working fine, and then displays status saying, okay, this has been installed properly, or there is some kind of problem. And if there is a problem, then the first place to look is in the Windows application event log, and in there you'll find an application log, and you would be looking at messages with event ID 41734. Those are all messages coming from the PDF converter. So this validation takes a second because it goes over all the applications. So let's wait until it's done. And there we go. And if we scroll down, we see that they all validated and are configured properly. So if you've made any changes, you click OK to save the changes, and then you're done. Now there's one more central administration page I would like to show, because a lot of people actually can't find this. And the PDF converter comes with a lot of SharePoint features that can be enabled at the web application or at the site collection level. Now the web application level features can be found in the application management, then manage web applications, and then you select the web application of your choice that will be running like your end user site collections, and you click on manage features. And in here you'll see a handful of features that are all part of the PDF converter. You see the main PDF converter is enabled by default, and this is just the context menu that you get on document and form libraries in order to convert PDF files. Then there's also an automatic PDF processor, user interface, and PDF processor engine that you need to install and enable actually if you are dealing with real-time watermarking and real-time security outside of workflows. And then finally there is, if you want to use our software in combination with an index workflow, you would need to enable the integration with an index workflow at the web application level as well. Okay, so let's have a look at a site collection to see what this looks like. Let's refresh it to make sure this all starts up properly. So the PDF converter comes with many different PDF facilities for merging and watermarking and securing, but the main facility that we'll show here is the standard convert option. You can select it from the ribbon here, but we'll select it from the drop down and we say convert to PDF, and this is just proving that the actual basic converter works. There will be different videos that will actually show you all the other kind of facilities available in the product. So if this screen loads properly, then already you know that communication with the conversion service has been set up. If you get an error here, then most likely in central administration the URL of the conversion service is not correct. Okay, let's accept the default settings and we say just convert, which takes the MS Word file that we've selected. It sends it to the conversion service and it's already done, and it's created a PDF file. So if we go back to the source library, we see that a PDF file has been created here. So I'll show a little bit more after this related to installing the license key and upgrading. But if that's of no interest, then this is the last slide you should pay attention to. So there's some additional resources, the knowledge base, the support articles, user guides, administration guides, some licensing details. You'll find the actual URLs here, and make sure you actually check them out. They've got lots of useful information on them. Now, if you have a trial version, you don't need to bother with installing any licenses or trial licenses, because the software is fully functional and doesn't actually expire, other than a small watermark in the converted documents. If you want to install your license, then the first thing you need to do is install your license manager, and I'll show you how that works. So the install set for the PDF converter, if we go a couple of directories back, we'll actually see a license manager. And similar to the normal front-end software for the PDF converter, you also have a front-end for the license manager. So let's say install, and you see a familiar screen again that adds the WSP file into SharePoint. Okay, that's done. So if we now go to Central Administration again, and we go to System Settings, we see, for example, a 503 error, and you may get this message as well when you convert, when you install the main PDF converter, and this is perfectly normal. This is nothing to worry about. Our software is deployed as part of a web application level functionality, so the application pool that is associated with your SharePoint site is actually recycled, and there's nothing that we actually do. This is just the standard SharePoint deployment mechanism, and it usually takes a couple of seconds. So if you now click refresh, you'll see that it actually starts to spin up again, and it loads Central Administration. Okay, so with the Central Administration properly loaded, we can go to the Muhimbi License Manager, and if you have a license key, you can actually add it using this screen. You can see here we already have one, but let's add a new license that you would have downloaded from our website, and it's just a matter of taking the entire file, opening it in Notepad, and then pasting all the XML associated with it, and then you say save. And you see that the file, the license has been added, and the light is green, so it's not expired or invalid. Now, because this product really consists of two parts, like I mentioned before, you have the SharePoint front-end and the conversion service, you also need to install the license in the conversion service installation directory. So let's take the license file. So we magically have this file here, and we copy it and we install it in the installation directory of the conversion service. Now, if you don't remember where you installed it, there's a handy shortcut in your start menu. So you go to your start menu and you go to the Muhimbi document converter and you say open installation folder, and you paste your license file there, and you now see the file actually sitting there. Now you have to restart the conversion service. So if you go to your services, MMC, you'll actually see that here is a Muhimbi document converter service, and you restart it. So this takes care of your license installation, so it's not that hard. Let's close this all down, and then let's discuss the very final topic, which is related to upgrading. So if you're upgrading from one version of the PDF converter to a new version, the best thing to do is just to open the administration guide and navigate to the section named upgrading from a previous version. But basically what it boils down to is you uninstall the front-end WSP using the uninstall command, then you uninstall the conversion service using standard Windows add or remove programs, and then you install the new version. And then there are some caveats and there's some small hints and tips that you need to take into account, so by all means read the administration guide. So that's all. If you have any problems with installation, again, check chapter 2 of the administration guide, and if you still have problems after that, just feel free to contact our support desk at support@muhimbi.com.